Right. So, we seem like going to have a bit of late start due to a slight technicality. I'm in there for a moment.
Hi. Oh, okay. All right, I'm just gonna. Okay, you can hear me, right? Right? Shane.
Yes, I can. Live stream and everything is set up already. Although I think, y- yes, yes, so we should be good.
I think I accidentally took back post from you and your presentation stuff.
Yes, can you make me back host and
Okay.
I'll make you co-host?
Let me know if that works. So we're gonna
Yes.
start in about 10 minutes. 10 minutes. All right, that should be enough time. We will start. Uh, start 10 minutes. Okay. So you can share back your screen. All right. In the meantime. All right. Just letting everybody know we're gonna start in about 6 minutes. All right. Oh, we're not seeing your screen, O'Shane. Can you reshare?
Yes, about to. All right, can everyone see my screen?
I can see it.
Okay, all right, cool. Um, okay. Jason, I'm going to go ahead and start.
Yes, so everyone, let me give a short introduction of our speaker. Well, our main speaker for tonight, cause these type of events, they're more mixed, right? So we're gonna have a discussion, right? But I thought it best if we had somebody to go over some tips and tricks, cause negotiations aren't easy to do. So O'Shane Bailey is the founder of Osob. He's also the founder of Shop. Yeah, so he back in the day created something called Seeker. Some of you may or may not know that it was a job seeking platform. So Shane has created a wide repertoire of apps, right? And he is, somebody who believes in the Caribbean, believes that we as a people should be making products that are globally scalable, right? So O'Shane, very experienced developer himself, very diverse set of skill sets, and we are happy to have him for this presentation. So O'Shane, you can kick things off. Oh, of course, if you have questions, you can drop them in the chat or use the raise hand feature.
Okay, thank you very much for that introduction, Jason. Quite well informed. You've worked with me and know my style, so I'm grateful for that introduction. All right, so today, as you can see on the screen, we'll talk about salary negotiation and just being a bit realistic and optimistic about how to negotiate salaries and understand the importance of effective salary discussion, especially with a prospective employer. And the reason why I wanted to do this presentation was recently two individual had fumbled a really good opportunity that I got for them. One asked for too low and the other asked for too high. So it's you negotiate and get in that right spot. And of course, going to talk about some tips and highlights on the important aspect of being professional about salary negotiation and being realistic, especially in the Jamaican market. Of course, internationally, you have a bit more room to ask for more, but at the same time, you you start generally people start at one level and they grow through whether promotion, whether getting more higher position at some other workplace. So it's talking about that as well as understanding the market by doing market research, whether it's just asking friends and other colleagues about, what they get pay. So going to touch on that. And of course, one of the things that's important to me is a lot of times people apply to jobs and don't have the skill set to do that job, or sometimes they have the skill set and then they have some form of impersonation where they don't feel imposter syndrome, sorry, don't feel like they are capable to do the job. So going to touch on that a bit and career development as indicated earlier, promotion. You can get promotion in your current job to move from level one to level two to level three and so forth until you become like a manager, exec, and so forth. And of course, I'm going to touch on some successful tips. And like Jason had indicated, if anyone has any questions, comments, you can go ahead and ask in the chat, and I'll try to make this presentation as open as possible, where you guys can also share your experience and thoughts. So to continue, the first step, of course, is the importance of salary negotiation. All right, so money is not everything, but money can buy you almost anything once you have enough. And at times, a lot of people may not earn a lot of money, and because of that, at their current job, and because of that, they're seeking other alternatives to earn income. So, of course, understanding your own position financially is one aspect of what impacts the salary that you're expecting, and of course, your potential to earn more, whether it's currently inside the company that you currently work or you see other opportunities. Um, Another aspect is a lot of times I see people fumble in this type of discussion, mainly because they're not sure of how much people are getting paid at that company, getting paid at market level. And of course, sometimes they kind of mix the international pay scale with the local pay scale, and that kind of show off what salary range they should expect. And of course, um, it also touch in whereby one may be asked what is the salary range, and a lot of times people will get thrown off by that question. I'm going to touch on that a bit, but I also want to just address that. All right, there are different levels of earning. Of course, when you go into a company or applying for a company, the first thing you should do is look at where you're coming from, um, and how much you want to make when you go to another company. Because one of the points of switching jobs or finding a new job is to earn more, or sometimes just getting a better working environment. So you have to understand your trade-off there, and how you can negotiate, in the sense that when you've asked that what is the salary range, the expectation, um, you can look at the market rate and what people are getting. You can also talk to your friends, your colleagues. You can also reach out to the community, because we've done salary reports and a lot of other companies done salary reports. So that should give you an idea of what you should be getting. And of course, you also need to assess um your skill set, and I'll touch on assessing your skill set a bit later. Assessing your skill set, if once you go into that company at X level, what can you do to advance? So when someone asks you what's your salary expectation range, you should actually switch it a bit, whereby don't just throw out a number or a range. Like I said earlier, you can mention the market rate, but you should also mention, like, put the discussion towards, okay, you're expecting your starting salary to be like this, and after like a period of time, you're expecting a salary escalation because you've proven your worth, that you have the skill sets to make an impact, not just whereby you come to work, you're just doing what you were told. You're also making an impact by adding ideas, adding new ways of how they can improve their business. So you're adding value on their side. And of course, the trade-off is you will earn more, given that your worth is making their company money. So that question should be shifted in, this is the starting salary that I'm expecting. However, after X period, and generally what I do, both as a employee and a employer, I normally give that um range 3 to 6 months. So after 3 to 6 months, I'm expecting like a bonus or something to incentivize the impact that I've made. Especially if I'm learning at a higher rate than what they expected. Because one of the things you need to understand is that you may be a senior developer at one company, but when you go to another company, you might end up being a junior or a mid, mainly because you don't understand their ecosystem, their technology, processes, and so forth. So you have to go into an entire learning curve. However, yes, there are cross-functional skills and skills that you can always bring across once you understand the fundamentals. So when you talk about salary, you should always talk in a progressive way that you're not just here for making some money, you're here to actually gradually make more money because you're making the company better. And this is how you would want to make their company better, whether you give them like, okay, based on the interview, this is a 6 month plan of what I can do at the company, and these are the metrics that then indicate that if I meet these um KPI, key performance index indicators, you should get more. So that's one way that you should push the conversation to instead of throwing out a number. So I touched on this a bit, and Jason Williams posts quite a number of times in the various groups that we have, whereby X amount of well, at this company or in this industry, this is what people are getting paid or position. There is like an entire white uh, uh, website dedicated to it called JamaicanSalaries.com. So you can always check on their the UI UX network recently released their report, and that also includes some salary ranges for individuals in UI UX. And of course, there's Jampo, there's us who also publish our own reports. And of course, the government does publish salary reports here and there. So this is something I think you guys should always know, and it will also help you to give people advice. So, for example, I've seen in the chat where someone, I'm not going to call any names, but big up a good friend, um, 1 million, that's the starting salaries expecting. Some people would like, oh, well, that's rich. While of course at each level and other people level, yes, that's understandable. But you have individuals just starting out, whether they're intern, junior, mid, and seeking how they can propel in the industry. So think of intern or a junior that just getting their first job or gig. How best can like these information serve them, and how best can the community on a whole serve them. So generally, I would say from my experience and what I've been seeing in the market, which is a bit sad, but it's the realistic nature of the local environment currently. Um, Interns to junior tend to get between 80 to 200 GMD, 200,000 GMD per month. And sometimes honestly I've seen where interns get less than 80%, but I think 80,000 is the benchmark that most interns can look towards. And then of course after that it will go into junior and so forth. Of course there is senior developer who are interns based on of course a particular organization, but when I mention intern I'm mainly talking someone just coming out of university. In the US you see a lot of time people say, oh, a developer coming out of US should be earning between 30 to 60,000 US, which is a significantly a lot of money, especially for the Jamaican market. You won't find a individual coming out of university making such money unless, of course, they started before or they work started to work at a big bank or or a big organization that can, push out those kind of funds. Most times you see it's 80 to 200 people who just come out of university in the local market. And of course, this is backed up on based on the data. And like I said, you can check out JamaicanSalaries.com as well as Jampo, our report, and of course Ask Alone to get a realistic idea of what salaries are like in Jamaica. And of course, if you want to work remotely overseas, of course you get paid there, but of course with everything there is a trade-off. All right, so we had touched on this a bit earlier. And the rest of this I'll pause to accept any question. We've touched on this a bit earlier whereby for example the individual coming out of university asking for example, a large sum of funds, and large is relatively said based on, of course, their experience level. So for example, let's I've seen where someone just out of university had asked for 500,000 to 600,000 as their salary range, and I'm like, huh, yeah, clearly you're not living in Jamaica and you're kind of utilizing the US rate. And that's fine to you know want that much, but at the same time, um, you have to think about value on the company side because you have to be realistic. You just come out of university. What can you do? What can you offer? What can you build as a developer? Um, if you can't do the work that you indicate that you can, and instead project taking 2, 3 weeks to complete, even if it's just a feature, and instead of it taking that short amount of time, it takes like 2 to 3 months instead. Um, yeah, a company will try, then say, okay, this is not working out, because they're spending X, and they're not seeing the value for their money. And on your side, yes, interns, juniors, they want their funding, they want to ensure that they have enough to, fund their lifestyle and all of the things that we personally do on a day-to-day basis. And also being paid um greatly also help us not to look for other jobs at times because it kind of give us a peace of mind that at the end of the month I can get X amount of money and that X amount of money may last a extra month given the way you budget also. But at the same time it goes back on what you're offering and what's the trade-off. Um, is there value as a developer or a professional, is it matching what you're giving, not just to the company, but to society? Because for me, one of the thing I normally say, learn what you need, do the work, the money will come. Because someone somewhere or you build something cool, it will generate some form of insight from someone and they will want you on their team. And of course you can switch it to a different job and earn more and show your portfolio that you've done this, you've done that, and you impress companies, individual, and world at large. And of course, it goes into you. garner up all of these skill sets, certification, qualification, everything that you need to showcase that you know what you're doing, you can build application successfully. And not when I say successfully, I don't mean that you build it and then when an actual user try to use the system, they find it painful to use, and then that leads to the user not going back on the system. So again, it goes back to understanding your value, where you are in your career path, and then showcase proof that you know what you're doing, know how to not just build a project, website or so forth, but how to even generate income for it. You give ideas and inputs for it to grow. And in essence, this lead to the whole aspect of thinking about your growth plan. Where you are today is step one, step two, or even step 10. But by the next 6 months, you should be thinking about how can you get to the step 60 or stage 60 in a short amount of time. You garner all these skill sets to then ask for a raise, or find a better paying job, or another company with more benefits and so forth. So that's kind of also what you need to think about understanding your value, and planning for your future, a 6 month to a year plan, what you are going to do and how you're going to get there. I'll pause for any question. Anyone have any question thus far?
I'm gonna hold my questions till after the presentation.
Right, I don't see any questions, so I'll move on. All right, so um, key questions for salary negotiation. Um, as you know, the interviewer would generally ask the question, what's your salary range? I touch on that a bit in terms of what you should shift that towards, which is salary escalation plan. You start off at a particular starting salary, and then after X amount of time, you get a increased pay plus a yearly escalation based on your performance. There are other stuff that you as the individual should bring up, especially if they bring up that question. So it's kind of you forming a discussion with the interviewer, so it helps to leave an impression that you're a forward thinker, you're thinking about, the future, your growth plan, and how you can grow in your organization as well as an individual on a whole. So of course, typical question you should ask is, okay, what's the salary structure? I touch on it, salary escalation, and then of course, if there's any like investment option. Sometimes some companies will do equity, or may say that they have a employee share pool. So whenever if they are a public company, they can put an internal memo out that, oh, they're going to release an IPO, and employees can buy do a first buy of those shares. Stuff like that kind of help you understand, okay, how can you earn more at the company, as well as how can you grow in the company by, or do they have any plans or structure for career development? Let's say you started out as a level 3 developer, you know, back end, but you don't know front end? Do they have any courses? Do they have any partners that do workshops or so forth? Um, that would teach you front end, or do they do anything to teach more soft skills? So you know that you may not have the best interpersonal relationship communication skills, or just general project management or whichever skill. You ask these type of questions so that they understand that you're not just coming to get a payslip at the end of the day, but you're thinking about how can you grow as an individual, learn more. Because the more you know, the more you learn, the better you're at doing something. And the better you're at doing something, the more effective you can serve that company and society on a whole, and of course yourself and your family. So ask questions around career development, because that could also be a aspect where it's actually a benefit on top of the pay that they would, for example, do pay like for entire course for you, or pay 50% of it, and some other aspect of getting you certified. And of course, once you have that certification, no matter where you are, you can use that certification of proof that you know this, and you have a standard upholding in terms of the quality of work that you do. And of course, the last thing is you need to touch on performance. I talk about it in the sense of KPI. Um, so one of the thing, and I'll use QA as an example, where software developers sometimes find it annoying for quality assurance to test their software and report bugs. Um, yes, it's annoying, but it's one of the ways the software improves, and you improve your skill set and know, or if you do it this way, it will be cause issue, and then the next time you're working on a similar project, that bug won't occur because you have the experience to, fix it. So it goes back to whereby, yes, you actually do need to get performance review. How can you improve? What are the skill sets you're growing? And how can you not just improve at it at the company level, but also improve it on a personal level? Because again, at the end of the day, your worth, your value is what is important to you and your future. Because if you're bad at something today, and you're still bad at it like 3, 4 weeks later, or I should say 3, 4 years later, unless it's a physical issue that can't be resolved, then the, that's going to be an issue for the company, because it doesn't show improvement, and that's also a personal issue for you, because it will come back to bite you when you need to have that skill and you don't have that skill. So talk about these 3 points: sales structure, performance, um, review, and career development, as a part of salary negotiation. And of course, another important point is general benefits. Of course, health insurance is important. Retirement is something very important that a lot of people kind of just say, "Oh, I don't need that right now." But the thing is that you need to have a retirement plan. You're not going to work until you're like, well, hopefully you're not planning to work until you're 80, 90, and so forth. Like, if God allows us to live that long, but you need to have a retirement plan. So like at age 30, 55, you can have an early retirement. You have X amount of money coming in from your pension. And of course, that could, help you live smoothly. Um, so funny way, I was planning to do a early retirement. I started my pension from way back in, um, um when I'm 21 or 22 thereabout. So I was planning to retire at 35. I'm 34 now. But the market changed a bit and a lot of stuff happened. And I love coding and innovating, so I pushed that. And of course, I'm not at the state that I could retire and then say, yes, I live a lavish life. So, I'm still trying to build wealth. And it's not an easy thing to build. And this is also something you should look at, look beyond just the current salary that you're getting, but look beyond in the sense that what can you gain from the current workplace? Do they do performance bonuses? They do they do like investment opportunities? Sometimes some companies may request some employee investment for a project, and then that will issue out equity to them because they pull back some of the earning that they're getting to the company to help the company grow. So things like these are important to have a discussion around to understand where the company is at, how the company can benefit you, not just by giving you a salary, but how they can, take care of those day-to-day issues that may arise now and then. Example, health, dentists, and so forth. And I brought this up because this kind of allows a bit more flexibility in how you negotiate. And another thing that has been popping up a lot since 2020 is like flexible hours, remote work, and paid time off. Of course, there's something that a lot of people don't understand, which is contract work. Contract work is, you know, you kind of work when you need to and when there's a project. But at the end of the day, if you don't do something, um, don't get it completed, you might not get paid. So it's always best to push for a full-time work. And of course, if that full-time, like being a full-time employee, and I would say remote work is pretty good. I A fun fact is that I started my development journey from 2011, and since 2011 to now, I've always been a remote worker, and this is based on like just generally the type of jobs that I tend to go after, and of course the employers that tend to seek me for the type of skill set that I normally publish on LinkedIn or different social media, because a part of building your worth or value as a professional is building your brand. Let people know about you, what you can do, and that certain things you can just get it done like snapping your fingers. Um, because generally that's kind of all a lot of times people reach out, and then I will say, okay, these are some of stuff I want. These are some of stuff I'm looking for. These are my negotiables, and so forth, because I show worth or value in what I do, and they can see that I have the portfolio to match what I'm asking, even though they did the offer, so I did a counter offer due to the level that I'm at. So build your portfolio and even if you're not at the stage that you would be asking for, be flexible to negotiate. Because there are trade-offs, like I said. Some people sometimes they will say, "Oh, you can get three days remote, give health insurance," and that may um have like a reduced salary. But if they reduce the salary, make sure that you push for a escalated well, a salary escalation plan. So after X amount of time based on your performance, like I said before, you will earn more. And one of the more important topic as developers is work-life balance. There are companies that may call you as a professional 24/7. Some companies, may have hostile working environment. Some companies may just, you know, don't have the right company culture that will make you as an individual feel motivated to work. For me, one may look at me and say that I don't have a good work-life balance, but the fun side of that is that what I do, which is code, is what I love, which to do for fun. So my work-life balance is kind of coding because I code for fun and I code for work. And of course, people say, "Oh, I built so many things and so forth." Um, what about, like my personal development, spending time with family, friends, and so forth. I do those. So it's all about structuring yourself. Personally, because like for me, I watch a lot of anime. I go to a lot of movies, travel to Japan, and try to see the world here and there. So you need to also have a plan internal for yourself, how you're going to manage work and your personal life, as well as find out from the company what type of programs or initiatives they have that will build a nice work-life balance for you so that you don't become burnt burnt out to the point overwork and you just don't want to hear anyone, see anyone, and just want to go into a cave and said, "I'm done for the night." So this is something that needs to be discussed. And again, the reason why I'm adding all of these points is because these help you to understand where you are, where you want to go, and give you a bit of balance of, okay, you want the money, but you also want peace of mind, whereby you're not overworked, you don't feel stressed, and you know that at the end of the month, the money is coming in, and that sum is more than good enough to pay your bills, go to movies, or like for example, Demon Slayer is going to come out. Well, it's Demon Slayer is here in Caribbean. So work-life balance for me is to go to watch Demon Slayer anime in 4DX. And if you guys don't know, 4DX is like a coaster physical like feeling what the movie is like. So a lot of fun stuff there. So again, try to think about how we can match benefits with the salary that's been offered, the initial starting salary with salary escalation to then would accept what was discussed and whether you need a change. So sometimes I've seen people hear a number and like no without discussing or finding out if the company has X amount of benefits. Because for example, one of benefits of my company is that We go out a lot, meaning we do company trips. Last year, because of community, we went on a yacht and Yamans. The year before, we went to Yamans and another place. This year, we have a community trip coming up from the community side. What's the place called again, Jason? The community trip?
Yes, so we're going to Saint Elizabeth, right? As for the link to specifically where we're going, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat.
Okay. So Jason will drop that. So, and there are other benefits that I tend to offer at my company, and then we look towards impact, where we have a reading program going on with schools. Well, a particular school right now to help the youths, because the youths are the future of society. So that may give you a bit of fulfillment that you're seeing the struggle and then you're making an impact, making a change in someone, right? For example, um, last year, the individuals that went the most at the end of the program, the kids cried, hugged them, and so forth, and was so happy for all of the lessons learned, from those employees. When I went to, the kids. I wasn't there for most of the sessions. So they're like, thank you, sir. So I didn't get in the hug. It's not that I'm jealous or anything, but things like that, empathy, showing in uh, doing impactful project can also be like a nice way to give you a nice work-life balance because it gives you peace of mind and purpose. Um, I'll see how best I can fast forward all of topic. Um so the thing that I want to touch on here first is professionalism. Um I've seen and heard where interviews just utter went south due to disagreement. So even if because I personally, the interviewer should always maintain respect, regardless of who they speak to. Um, and of course, sometimes I've seen where people feel disrespected because the the sound that someone is pushing is ridiculous. Um, just gracefully say no and just move on. No hard feelings. There's better opportunities out there. And it's always good that you maintain professionalism because employers talk. And I bring this up because yeah, attitude at times determine altitude, and in the salary negotiation process, um, bringing a positive, not necessarily upbeat, but optimistic. Okay, you're here to make an impact, and you definitely know what you're doing, and having confidence in yourself, and maintain modesty at the same time will help that interview and well sound negotiation to be very calm, peaceful, very um discussion, right? Where the interviewer might, like you for your personality, like you for, instead of you saying no, you don't know this, and you say you don't know it yet, but you can easily learn. Things like those make an impression, and things like those will make the person say, "Oh, you're willing to learn, you're willing to push." They don't mind paying bets, and of course. touch on evidence multiple times, whether it's the market data, talking to your colleagues, friends, the community, and all you can, get from level 3 to level 60. Um, all of these stuff are important in just generally um negotiating your salary. And of course, after you touch on all these different benefits, bonuses, compensation packages, salary escalation. It's your duty to yourself to consider all of these stuff, um, and then total it not just from the monetary point of view, but also the mental health point of view and the other benefit to see if this is extremely worth it. So for example, um, let's say I'll ask, I'm going to throw this question. We only have two slides leave. I'm going to throw this question. I kind of want to hear each of you thoughts on the matter. Um, Job one is willing to pay you 500,000 to 800,000. Um, it, it's pretty demanding. So most of the time you're working 7 a.m. to like 8 p.m. So you're supposed to work 9 to 5, but because there's always something to do and it's very hectic, you find yourself like working overtime a lot and feeling burnt out. So that's what they are paying you. There's of course some benefits, let's say health insurance and pension. So that's job one. Job two is company willing to pay companies paying 250 to 400. It's remote work. The first one isn't remote work. It's remote work. They do company trips, company outing, um company activities, do health insurance. They would pay your electricity bill. Well, let's not use electricity bill, internet bill, because some people have electricity bill like in the high numbers for some reason. But internet bill, and and you have like a set time that once you close off at 5, you don't really need to do anything. So which of the two job would you want if you think about the total package?
What was
Um,
the salary for job two?
um, the salary range is 250 to 400. Just
Well,
good.
I just want to let everybody know you can text your answer in the chat, right? So one job was at 500K, but highly stressful, then you might feel burnt out. Job two, a lot of utilities and things are paid for, and the range is 200 to 400K. So I would say, of course, job two, because they're paying my bills.
Course, you're not stressed out. Anyone would prefer to work at um job one, the 500 to 800,000? If you do, just raise it, and if a matter of fact, you can just unmute and indicate what.
Hold on, Oshin. I actually haven't allowed them to. So, for those of you who want to speak, and we're encouraging you to speak as well, because that makes the conversation easier. Just raise your hand, and then I'll allow you to unmute. All right. So I see some answers in the chat, right? Job two, less stress, job two. Okay.
Okay, all right, noted on that. So yeah, I also would have gone with job two. I value my time, and your time is the most important thing in this world. And the reason why I say that, of course, I'm not including God or, religious belief there, but most important thing in the world, the reason why is because once you have time for you, you have time for spending it with your family, wife, husband, child, and people you truly care about and things that you truly want to do. So I will stress job wouldn't suffice. And then job two, given the fact that I know if 5 o'clock comes, I can close off. I could have like a night to side job to just do some stuff that would it's not something I'll do every night or so forth, but there's that I could do now and then to earn an extra, cash. And of course work on my personal projects, and going out to movies and so forth and feeling rested at nights and in the morning. So for me, um, my general closing thoughts on all of this is just think about balancing um the total package of the company that you're working at, from salary, compensation, benefits, and everything, and think about your career growth path. How can you earn more and still have a peace of mind at the end of the day so that you know no company stress you out to the point where you just want to switch industry or stop work overall. You have a peace of mind that each day you wake up you are happy to continue code, continue do what you love. Given that you're a software developer, digital professional working in the tech field, because I've seen where people who love to code and can code well may land a job that stressed them out, and then they started to hate the thing that they love. And of course, your finance is important. Always think about long-term goals, do investment, pensions, insurance here and there. All of these things will help you in the later run. And of course, for present day, there's, if you have some bonus or extra cash, you could also invest in stocks, crypto, and so forth, to just earn out interest here and there. So with that, going to go over to if anyone has any questions. We're pretty much at the end of the presentation.
All right, everyone. So we may be at the end, however, I think this section is where most of the value is, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna allow anybody to unmute themselves and we just have an open discussion here. So I guess, Oshin, great presentation. Thank you for doing this. What I would ask you is, what's the biggest fumble you've seen as far as salary and job negotiation?
Um, Not being realistic about not being realistic about where you're at as an individual, and of course where the market is. So for example, um it goes back to the old comment about one axe too high, one axe too low. The one that axe too high, um the client was willing to pay the individual around 120,000 US per month, for the year, which is pretty much around between 8 to 11,000, and he would have given bonus and so forth. But they don't know the person, so they wanted to do a starting salary of 60, and after the first year, they would double the pay. Um, the person didn't um didn't take the job because they said they wanted the 120. No. I know that the client would have paid because they've done it before. So it's just, of course, a company do not know you. So that amount of money is a lot of money. Money don't fall from the tree, even though people will say, oh, you know, we used to make money. But so in any case, so that's one fumble, and then the other fumble, that said client, uh, um, someone sent someone to them, and they I was supposed to handle the negotiation for them. Because sometimes I will just handle negotiation for some people. I want to come on to sell to ensure that it's fair. But for some reason they went to the client instead. So they the client was willing to pay like X amount, like 4X, X. Um, and what they asked for was like 1/5 of what the client was willing to pay. So the client is like, "Oh yes, sure, definitely." And then they message me like, I don't, I feel bad. I'm going to pay 1/3 instead of the 1/5 of what I was planning. Um, so in essence, the person did not know their worth, and the client had looked at their portfolio and was like willing to work with them. So those are two things. Just to answer someone comment, a year is a long time, sure. But how much Jamaicans are making over 120,000 US per year? So sometimes it's not the no. Sometimes you have to think about the short to medium term, because I can bet that at times people who are in that situation say no, and then 1 year later they don't get close to that amount. So you have to think about how can you get to a certain point even if you're not there right now. So yeah, Jason, back over to you.
All right. Let's see. So, does anyone here want to unmute and share, an experience they had, or just wanted feedback on something you did in the past? Feel free to unmute and let us know. Okay, in the meantime, there was another question, right? What is your view on unpaid internships? However, there is possibility for full-time employment and pay later down.
Um, so I was one at one point in my career path, and this goes back to the point of understanding your value. Um, when I just started, I didn't know much, so I needed to build my skill set as well as my portfolio. So I consider that as a pro bono to build the necessary skill set and portfolio. And that pro bono job led me to getting a different job that paid really well. So I have no issue with it. If you're new, like just fresh out of university, if you don't really have a lot of responsibility, in the sense that you live with your parents or you live with someone that can take care of bills or you don't have a lot of bills, sure. But if you are someone that has a lot of responsibility, bills and so forth, and you really need the money, um, it's best to get a paid job, because you don't want it reach a point where next month bill will come and you don't know where you're going to get it from. That can lead to a lot of mental health and stress issues. So it depends on where you are, your position, but if you can afford to do it to build skills, then I have no issue. There was a second part to the question.
No, no, I think you covered it well. Okay, let me see. I think, yeah. All right, so I have a question in the chat.
In the current job market for juniors, it is wise to try negotiate for a higher salary, knowing that others would do it for cheaper. Um, I would say nothing is wrong with asking for more, but it's the way you do it that is important. And it goes back to the point that I made regarding um salary structure. Say that okay, you can come on board as a start with this starting salary, but you need to increase after 3 to 6 months. So tell them give you this 3 to 6 month period a time to prove your worth and why um you should be paid more, because you are passionate about learning, passionate about making an impact and solve real world problems. Um and if your performance is really well, I I would assume or presume most companies would do that pay increase, because that's generally what I would do at well, I've been doing at my company, and I've known other companies to do it, but of course it's not every company have good working working conditions. So yes, you can ask for more, but do it is as a salary escalation, starting salary and then escalate after X amount of time.
All right,
Um,
everyone. Oh, you were saying something, Ocean?
so I was asking if there's any other question.
Yeah, so if there's no other question, like in the chat or verbal question, we are going to close. So I'm just gonna give 1 minute, right? Does anybody want to speak? You can let us know in the chat. Or, verbally, you can unmute your mic. All right, so I'm guessing all questions have been answered. Okay, so we can wrap up.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like in terms of when you're asking for a salary, which one you think is a safer route? An absolute figure or the by expressing a range? In your professional estimation, which one you think is a better or safer route?
That's it. It kind of I hate to answer it like this. It kind of depends on the company. So do your research about that company first, and that kind of give you understanding of their work ethics. So for me, I prefer to do a absolute value, but do it with a salary escalation in mind. Because, for example, I'll say, I have no problem to do start at 320. Of course, gross, and you can take out taxes. And then after X amount of time, you do based on the impacts that I've made, a pay increase to by 50 to 100,000 should be suffice, given the fact that I'm making company a lot of money, making a lot of changes, impactful changes, and I think it will be a win-win on both sides. So saying it like that, instead of giving them a salary range, is way better, because if you give them a silence, I mean, for example, if I give you a price, if I'm selling you something and I told you I can give you the coconut water between $500 to $800, um most times people will say 500, because why not go for the cheaper? Who wants to pay more? So absolute price, absolute figure with salary escalation, and that's literally what I've always pushed for.
Okay, thanks.
All
Or
right.
so I'm guessing there are no more audio questions. Okay. All right. So everyone, thank you for attending. And of course, if you're interested in the community trip, definitely go on Meetup and sign up. Go on our social media page at JamDevCo, and you'll keep in touch with all of the many, many events and activities that we're doing. All right. So it's been great having this discussion with you all, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, bless it.